Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. It's Corey Lewandowski. It's been a long time, but I love having you on. He's a senior advisor to President Trump. Corey, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's really great to see you. I want to start with the breaking news from today. I just talked to Carl Higbee, my friend over at Newsmax, and we were talking about how the Teamster strike is not even being talked about, which is crazy because that's 50% of all the stuff coming in, from outside, providers. And nobody's talking about it because of the hurricane, because of Iran and Israel, the Middle East, the big debate tonight between the vice presidents. Let's start with, I think, what is so important globally and what's going on with Israel. Yesterday, Joe Biden was asked by a reporter, are you okay with Israel striking Lebanon? And Biden said, I'm okay with them stopping. Ceasefire now. Corey, ceasefire now means nobody wins. You take the terrorist attack from a year ago and just don't do anything. I think Israel going after Lebanon and Hezbollah and Hamas and Gaza and all that makes sense. What are your thoughts when you hear the sitting president basically tell Iran, I want our friend Israel to stop, the next day Iran attacks Israel?
Well, Joe, what it is a continued reminder of the weak and feckless leadership that currently occupies the Oval Office, and by extension, Kamala Harris. Joe Biden's foreign policy has been one word: don't. You know what they did? They did. They laughed in his face. Our enemies don't fear us. Our allies don't respect us around this globe anymore because we become the laughingstock because they know if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris draw a line in the sand and you step over it, there are no consequences. So what do we see today? Over 200 missiles launched from Iran directly at Israel. It has always been up until today that they're cutouts. Hezbollah and others were attacking Israel. Now Iran is doing it directly. And what we don't see all of a sudden, Joe, is the mainstream media saying, boy, these aren't specific attacks. These aren't targeted at military installations. This was the attempted a complete annihilation of Israel. And but for the Iron Dome and some help from U.S. warships in the Persian Gulf, it would have happened. So let's not kid ourselves, right? The mainstream media has gone after Israel time and again, even though they were attacked almost 1 year ago to the day. We're coming up to that 1 year anniversary. And what Israel has done is they've used precision weapons and precision technology to kill the leaders that were responsible for these horrific attacks. And instead, this retort today, this response today from Iran had better be met with swift vengeance and furious anger by all the allies around the world.
I couldn't agree more, but the problem is the biggest ally, us, we don't seem to be on their side. Israel has the right to defend itself, but the Palestinians have the right to self-determination. What the hell does that mean? That's not saying we support Israel against all comers. We're just not saying it now. We said that with Trump. Why can't, Corey, I've asked every smart person I get to interview. You're one of the smartest. Do you know why the left, Obama, Biden, Harris, Clinton, why do they want to appease Iran? What do they think they gain? I don't think they want Iran to blow Israel off the map, but they have to have a plan. What are they gaining by sitting back and playing armchair quarterback on stuff like this?
Joe, they think, and this is what happens, they think that if you're nice to the bad guys, they're going to be nice to you in return. Just remember, they want to wipe us, the United States, off the face of the earth. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have given this regime over $6 billion of taxpayer money because they thought it'd be okay to be nice to these guys. When Donald Trump was in the White House, he put a hurt on these guys like they had never seen. And they knew, Iran knew that if they crossed the line, there would be swift repercussions from a Trump administration. And so by and large, for the 4 years that Donald Trump was the president of the United States, the world was at peace. We didn't have what was going on with Russia and the Ukraine today. We didn't have what was going on with Iran and Israel today. All of these things are happening because of a weak, feckless leadership in the Oval Office. And I wish it was just Joe Biden, who many of us don't believe actually knows where he is, but it was Kamala Harris as well. And what did Joe Biden say? I spent almost 2 hours on the telephone yesterday. Wow, crazy. What a real profile in courage. Almost 2 hours on the telephone to try and prevent world annihilation. Give me a break. Donald Trump did more yesterday in the state of Georgia as a private citizen than Joe Biden's administration have done in the last 5 years.
Trump campaign senior advisor, it's Corey Lewandowski. I appreciate the time and the access. When Biden said that, when he was asked, why aren't you back at the White House? Why aren't you in command? I am in command. Have you heard of a telephone? He was like really mad about it. He was righteously indignant, which didn't make any sense. He was at home in Delaware, maybe on the beach of Rehoboth, ignoring what was going on as Americans died and drowned in their own homes. Kamala Harris was in L.A. or Las Vegas campaigning, talking about she wants to debate Donald Trump again. I mean, the whole thing, the disconnect is crazy. Corey, even as a campaign guy, guy. Let's assume they don't care. But at least you're going to want to act like you care if you want to get some votes. But these people they simply are only out to keep their throne and their monarchy, and they just don't seem to care about the little people. Am I misreading this?
Joe, you're not misreading it, but here's the problem. The reason Kamala Harris doesn't want to go to the flood-ravaged areas is because she's going to be asked questions about things that we know she doesn't believe in. So pretend you care about North Carolina, pretend you care about Georgia, pretend you care about, Tampa, Florida, and go down there and show some empathy. But no, she doesn't do that. Instead, she's on the stage in Las Vegas and out in San Francisco raising money with the elitists, telling everyone how they will decide what kind of pricing you need to pay, what the food cost should be, how much gasoline should cost, what your home heating oil should cost. And instead, people have literally lost everything. And they said, well, we'll try and get down there in a few days. Look, it's the difference between being a leader and saying you're a leader. Donald Trump went to Georgia on Monday, and the only reason he waited until Monday to go there is because the elected officials who we'd been talking with over the weekend asked us to give them a couple days for additional recovery efforts. That has now concluded, and those people need potable water. They need food. They need supplies. Donald Trump called Elon Musk and said, bring me that Starlink so we can get some comms down there up and running. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could have done this. They chose not to. That's because they have a lack of leadership.
What blows my mind in 2024 America, and it's Corey Lewandowski, Trump campaign senior advisor, is that we have people who weren't able to get a hold of their family and friends to say, I'm okay. That's all they wanted to do, and Trump getting Starlink involved and Elon Musk involved was so smart. I said something on my show yesterday, and you can tell me I'm stupid or I make sense right here and now, because I said it to my audience, and some of them thought that I was crazy. I think Donald Trump would have gladly stood shoulder to shoulder with Harris and Biden and Walz and Vance and everybody as long as they were all there to help the people in the hurricane-ravaged zone. I think that's who Trump is.
Joe, he went down there. Not only did he raise $2 million through a GoFundMe page in the last 24 hours, but yes, he talked to the elected officials. But more importantly, Joe, if you look at the video of him coming off the airplane, he's shaking hands with the people who need it the most, people who want to know that there's some relief in sight, people who's lost every single thing that they've owned. Their homes are gone. They have nowhere to go. They're devastated. They know the insurance companies aren't going to give them a break. And so now they're looking ahead, now that the hurricane is over, saying, how do I put my life back together? Donald Trump went down there and listened. He listened and he heard their plight and he said, let me help you. That's what leadership is. And I agree with you. It wouldn't matter if Joe Biden was there next to him, Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or anybody else. Anybody who wants to help these Americans. And by the way, Joe, let's put America first. Okay, we've given $300 billion to the Ukraine. Think if we had that $300 billion back, what we could do to rebuild Asheville, North Carolina, and Georgia and Tampa, Florida, the places that have just been decimated. $300 billion have gone to what is really an endless war under this administration that could have gone to help the American people.
I've interviewed the president 14 times, including once at the White House, as you probably know. I know the guy. He's a nice guy. He would put politics aside in a second, in a heartbeat, to save a life in the Carolinas or in Georgia or Florida. You've got Ron DeSantis, who's doing more for the flood-ravaged area than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And then, Corey, I need your comment on this. Biden literally looks at the American people after committing $8 billion more to Ukraine to ask the American people to donate, to help. Now, we're really good people. We're going to donate. But I'm sorry, how much do we have to go and send to pay pensions in Ukraine and keep small businesses in Ukraine up and running while we're ignoring the people in need? Just give me your thoughts on that.
Well, Joe, tell me what success looks like in Ukraine. How much money are we going to put into that for them to determine what success is? We know it's not $300 billion because we've already blown past that. Is it $500 billion? Is it $700 billion? And by the way, Joe, what we now know for the first time, and this is Republicans and Democrats alike, for the first time since World War II, our GDP, our gross domestic product, is equal to our debt. And so what are we doing? We're literally borrowing money from China, who is ripping us off every day, manipulating their currency, stealing our intellectual property. We're borrowing money from China to give it to the Ukraine, and we're saddling the backs of everyday Americans who can't afford their healthcare costs or their food costs anymore because of Bidenomics. That's what's going on in this country. People better wake up, and they better wake up quick, because in 5 weeks from today, on Election Day, when voting ends, people have the opportunity to chart a new course for this country or stay in the same path and burden future generations in perpetuity. Our kids and our grandchildren will never recover from this if we continue down this path.
Trump campaign senior advisor Corey Lewandowski, appreciate the time and the access. Kamala Harris keeps saying she wants an opportunity economy. I don't know what that means. She's middle class and she had some second mother or something. I don't know what that means. She was on a bus when she was a kid, although she grew up in Montreal. I don't know what that means. She's not saying anything that would bring down costs and bring down prices. President Trump is saying exactly what he'll do, like what he did the first term. I don't know that the message is getting out well enough. Are people like you and I doing a good enough job letting the American people know that Kamala Harris literally has no plan whatsoever to lower even one cost when she's at, hey, how are you going to bring down groceries? How are you going to bring down rent? She talks about opportunity economy. I don't know what that means.
Well, what it means is she has no plan. She's had 4 years to bring down these costs, and she hasn't done it. But look, by and large, the mainstream media has given her a pass. No one reminds anybody that she grew up in Canada. She supposedly worked at a McDonald's. Joe, does anybody actually believe that? She says she did the fries at McDonald's. Give me a break. It's like when she said she owns a gun. Okay, what kind of gun do you own? Oh, I can't talk about that because we know it's not true, right? So every time she tells us something, we have to believe that she's actually lying to us. I'm against the border wall. Oh, now I'm for the border wall. I'm against no tax on tips. Now I'm for no tax on tips. Donald Trump's economic policy is very clear. If you build your product in this country, then you will get a tax break. If you manufacture in this country, you will get a tax break. If you want to have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, then you want to support Donald Trump because his philosophy is very simple. Smaller government, less regulation, lower taxes means more money in your pocket. You couple that with the security of finishing the border wall so that illegals are no longer pouring across our country and killing Americans, and you've got a recipe for success for the next 4 years. Kamala Harris is she's the antithetical candidate to that. She doesn't want any of that. She wants to control how you spend your money. She wants to leave the border wide open. She doesn't care about you or your family.
Corey, over the weekend, she said she wants a path to citizenship for people who are here illegally. That's like 21 million new Americans under a Kamala Harris regime. On the other side, the question people ask me about the border more often about Trump is, what will he do to literally deport all these people? You can't just round up 21 million people. What's the plan and process there?
It's very simple. Hey, we have this new thing called a FedEx. Send them all a FedEx. FedEx can find anybody, Joe. And I'm only kind of half kidding, right? I mean, you tell me you get a check in the mail, and these guys come out of the woodwork for it, right? So send everybody a FedEx, and when they go to pick up the FedEx, boom, you're gone. See ya. By the way, Joe, we got 13,099 people who we know that came across our border who are convicted murderers, almost 16,000 convicted rapists, 425,000 people with criminal records have been let into this country that we don't even know where they are. And let me just put it in perspective. We've got 4 people per every county in America, 4 people for every county in America who are now living here that are convicted murderers. Wow. We know what Donald Trump has said in the past. Some people thought it was hyperbole when he said, you know, they're letting the prisoners out. They're letting the mental health patients out. It's now true. CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, told us this. And then, by the way, it was the Walz, Harris, Biden, CBP who told us this. Boy, Kamala must have had a bad day because she went to the border on the same day this information was released. Somebody didn't like her very much. But now the American people are actually, their eyes are wide. They say, I can't believe we got 13,099 convicted murderers who came into this country that we don't know where they are.
This is the woman that wanted to reimagine Border Patrol. I don't even know what that means. This is the woman that compared the CBP and the ICE agents to the KKK. This is the woman that called it Trump's vanity wall. And Corey, I could be wrong, but she was taking pictures and video like almost hugging the wall. I mean, am I missing something? Do they think we're that stupid and that we forget that? I mean, go ahead.
They do think we're that stupid because when you turn on half of the networks, they say, well, under the Biden-Harris administration, imports of illegals are down to record levels and lower than Joe Biden, lower than Donald Trump ever had. It's just nonsensical. Okay, I've been to the border dozens of times with President Trump. I've met with the families who've been victims of the illegals pouring across this border and murdering and raping and putting into slave trade some of our children. Look, we've got 325,000 children missing over the last 4 years, and no one's talking about it. We have 100,000 deaths a year from the fentanyl overdose, from the cartels that are pouring that fentanyl and that poison across our southern border, and no one's talking about it. And when you turn on the television, they say, Kamala Harris is a transformational candidate. Yeah, she's going to transform our country into a third world nation is what she's going to do.
Exactly right. It's Corey Lewandowski. Corey, I can't let you go before I thank you for calling out the media like you do. I had J.D. Vance on a week and a half ago. I love what he's doing on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC. He's fact-checking them live and in person. You did this the other day with Ari Melber. I have to play this for my audience, and I want your comments on this.
Fox News, which has been caught in defamation, ran a false piece falsely stating that I said something else that I didn't say. So I stand on that. I stand on the New York Times.
So you didn't say this bandage was a prop, a spectacle from a candidate who was obsessed with spectacles.
Mr. That's fair. a placard for delegates to fill in, an image for political mobilization, a spectacle for this candidate who we know is, by his own admission, obsessed with assorted spectacles. These aren't, Mr. Lewandowski, I did not say that. That is a false quote.
Right here.
And
it's clear.
What you have is a false quote. What you have is a false quote. And I'm putting you on notice, if you continue to repeat falsely that I said that, you will be potentially in a defamation situation because I didn't say that. But I understand that you're working off the internet, which is a lot of false information.
This is what it says
I wish you luck
here.
with that. And Corey Lewandowski, we gave you time.
So you
I
would
appreciate you
apologize
coming
to the
on.
president for that.
Thank you for joining me. Corey Lewandowski, Trump 2024.
Corey, great job with that. My God, these people are so completely gone. You got to fill me in. I mean, first of all, it took quite a set to go on his show and say, you said this, and will you apologize for it? And then, of course, we intermingled it. I got that from your page on X. We intermingled the actual video of him saying it. I mean, what do you make of that? Because people watching his dumb show will think that he was right and you were wrong, even though you've got proof.
Well, Joe, this is what happens, right? The left says whatever they want. There's no accountability unless a guy like me or J.D. Vance or Tom Cotton call them out right there and then put the truth out for the American people to see it. But the best part was, Joe, the guy threatened to sue me for defamation. I said, hey, I'm waiting for the lawsuit. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to have the opportunity to put Ari Melber under oath and ask him questions because defamation, you know what this? Truth is the best antidote to defamation.
Yes.
So we have it right there. He said Donald Trump was shot. It was a prop. It wasn't true. And when I called him out on it, he said, I never said that. And by the way, he hasn't had me back on since, which I'm a little surprised at.
Get out of here. He hasn't had you back on because you proved him wrong. Corey, thanks for what you do. I appreciate you making time today. I know you've got to go. Trump Senior Campaign Advisor Corey Lewandowski, you got to come back on before the election if you don't mind, because like you said, the only way to stop this false information, the fake defamation, the fake outrage is by combating it with our free speech that I think we'll lose should Kamala Harris somehow win. Thanks a lot for coming on. Let's do it again soon, my friend.
You bet. Thank you.
I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.